And just like that, we will transition to our other guest here tonight and get Zac Jackson of The Athletic on. What is up, Zac? It's been a long time since we've talked. How you doing, sir?
Good. I'm doing all right. We're rolling right along here. I
Yeah,
think it's 3 weeks tomorrow that they started camp. Feels like three
yeah,
months. So let's get to the
it
real
does.
games.
Seriously. I'm sure you're exhausted from a day out there, 2 days out there with the Vikings, but I've got to tell you, Zac, looking at as someone who isn't there and is trying to, figure out what, how the Browns did in general. You're seeing quite a variance of takeaways. It's very kind of hard to determine how they did. It sounds like the defenses both did well for both teams, but I wanted to have you on mainly, Zac. And you can follow Zac on Twitter at Akron Jackson. And of course, he writes for The Athletic. I'm a big fan. Make sure you read him all the time. It's always fantastic. But Zac, last year, you were the one person who kind of, identified like something doesn't look right in the drop back pass game, like very early, right? Even in camp. And like when everybody else was kind of, blowing smoke at Deshaun and everything's going. You were very real about it, and so I wanted to bring you on because you've earned that credibility, certainly, and get your thoughts on what you've seen so far this offseason.
Well, I just think in general, I've seen enough to know that it's supposed to be fast. It's supposed to be good, right? Like everybody has bad days, bad throws, and balls get dropped and balls get tipped. But like
Yeah,
in an NFL practice, it's supposed to be good throws and good catches. So um, we haven't seen crispness as a way to look at it, right? Like in a bad practice, you run fewer plays because you're chasing the ball down, right? Because it's on the ground all the time. We've seen a lot of bad practices. So I would say this. There's only been one day where all the pass catchers were there. There's been no days that the running backs and offensive line were there. And there's been one or two good throws every day, but other than that, they all look the same. It's just inconsistent. It's all short throws and anything over 4 yards, and sometimes the 4 yarders are an adventure. So you can say all of these excuses are built in, and I didn't expect it to look great, right? And it's August 15th.
Yep.
yeah.
So you don't panic over it, but you can't say that it's good or even a little bit good based on what we've seen thus far.
Even better. You can't even say it's better than last year at this point. Maybe.
Brad, that's an interesting one. I really haven't tried to go there because they say new offense, right? They said that kind of last year. I would say that the 2 days or 3 days that Jerry Jeudy's been in there, it's clear what their vision is for him. I think it's clear they want to get David Njoku the ball quickly. They want to they want to line up to where they're going to get mismatches every time with either Njoku or Jeudy. And if teams have to pinch in the middle, they're going to roll Watson out or they're going to throw it to Cooper out there. Like I see what the vision is. It just hasn't been there. And there's a bunch of different reasons. So there's still 3+ weeks until they play. I think given Watson's injury and some of the new pieces and uncertainty of when or if Nick Chubb's going to be available, I'm looking at a month-ish of the season to get a full evaluation anyway. But right now, if they played the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow, they would have one chance to win, and that would be 13-10.
All right. We appreciate that. Casey, questions?
Yeah, if you were to rank the positional groups on offense in like level of concern, where would you start?
Ooh, that's an interesting one, Casey. Each year before the season, I write like in order, the 1 through 9 or 1 through 11, however deep you know which ones I trust the most. And the defensive ones are always on top. Yeah. So top heaviness, I trust David Njoku. And he did get hurt today. It's a couple plays in. He never left the field. He tried to go back in twice. Like I don't think it's anything major. We'll see. But he just looks, again, like a different player. I think last year at the Greenbrier, you started to see that. And the only reason I wouldn't say that he's an elite tight end is we need to see it more consistently, but we might. The running backs, I would probably put last just because we haven't seen, right?
Yeah.
Like we have seen none of Nick Chubb, and we don't know when that's coming. We've seen none of Nyheim Hines, and we don't know when that's coming. Deontay Foreman has had good moments in the NFL. He's also had a lot of 2 yards in a cloud of dust moments, and we've only seen him for a few practices. So I think the vision is to use Jerome Ford as like that Swiss Army guy and Hines to an extent. I think the vision is that Pierre Strong is a special teams player who's available for fresh legs and really fast legs. I think he might be the fastest straight line player on the team, but we just haven't seen him put it together. Today in the red zone, Ford had a run. I don't know if it was Ford or Strong, and Foreman had a run where the line really got in the full contact, and they really pushed him. And that's the first time we'd seen it. Every other run has just been not good. And it's just, like I said, I can tell you why. They're trying to get everybody on the same page. The line is not on the same page. The quarterback is trying to get comfortable. It's what you see in the early stages of an offense. This offense is clunking. I'd sum it up right there. You can let me go now. I'll stay in a couple more minutes. This offense so far has been a clunker. The pieces are there for it to be much better than it's been, but there's a long, long way to go. And, panic or dive further at your own risk. Let's see some games. Let's see Jed Wills get back and, see where it goes.
Great segue there to Jed Wills. I saw you tweet about him today. He was out. Did he do something after practice? Is that what it was?
After walkthrough. So, we saw it at the Greenbrier. We've seen it here. It's part of the injured guy's schedule. Sometimes they're just out there jogging. Sometimes it's just 1 40-yard sprint and some side jogging. Sometimes it's a regimented workout. So this was only 3 or 4 minutes. It was Jed Wills going through some drop backs, going through some football movements with a trainer, at least one, watching closely. He was wearing the brace. He didn't appear to be pushing it. And then he took the brace off and it was over. So, this is MCL surgery last December. So we're at 9 months now. So I don't know, guys. I'm trying to find out. Was there a setback? Are they playing it extra cautiously? Is there something else? But I was zero surprised when Jed Wills wasn't on the field in May and June. Like, who cares? But now we're in mid-August. I'm starting to get concerned, and so are the Browns.
Yeah, that would be my, that's where I'm at the version of, like, I'm about ready to panic. James Hudson makes me very panicky, and just the idea that they're in the position they are, it's almost like they're banking on him being back in like 3 weeks, which doesn't really seem realistic. Does that sound crazy?
I don't like the panic word with anything, Brad, here in mid-August, especially for this Browns team.
Sure.
But yes, like if we get into next week, when they don't go back to the practice field till Tuesday, and it's the week that the coach has designated like the simulated regular season week. Mm-hmm. If you don't see him doing light stuff there, then you can start to worry, like, what is his timetable for realistically being ready to block Micah Parsons in week 1 and Josh Allen in week 2 and Brian Burns in week 3. Right. So they don't, and that's the other part of it. They don't have a backup left tackle. James Hudson has played some left tackle. Jermaine Ifedi has played some left tackle. James Hudson has played on the right. He's been a sufficient backup. He was always a developmental guy. He's to the final year of his rookie contract. It's time to find out if that's working or not. Well, there's no evidence it's working with him as a left tackle. It's worked with him as the extra tight end, as the guy they keep bringing along, and they trust in this tight spot here. So what would they do? I don't know. Going back to the winter, there's been no willingness to put DeJuan Jones on the left. And I think the thinking there is just keeping him on the right. I don't think there's any realistic thought of moving Bitonio out there. I think that ship has kind of sailed. So, if you do get in the real emergency situation, we'll see what they do. But, I would give it 5 to 10-ish more days on Jed Wills. And I'm still thinking that's plan A, but we're trying to find out why we haven't seen him yet.
Casey, I'm going to let you go, but I want to follow that up with a quick question. I know I'm still on your questions. DeJuan Jones, are you surprised they haven't kicked him over there to the left side?
I'm not surprised. I just think, guys, that he's such a natural talent, but he's so unique because he's so big. And you saw last year, like when he's on, what he can be. I think they just wanted him to continue to get to that next step with that one position. So in 2 years, if they feel like DeJuan Jones is doing everything, staying healthy, getting in better shape and continuing to progress, like, I think they could move him. But I think right now they thought that the next step for him is just to become a better all-around right tackle and continue to try to master that position to take that next step. Because what we saw last year was really good, but it was 8-10 games, and it's the makings of an outstanding player, but it's still really just scratching the surface there.
So I think we got a snapshot of the future of what it looks like with Martin Emerson as QB or CB1. So he got to do some one-on-ones against Justin Jefferson. What did you make of that matchup?
Well, I wouldn't write Denzel Ward off quite yet. I mean, they just committed all that money to him, and he has been arguably the third best player in camp. But Martin's in the discussion. Martin was awesome. Now Jefferson got a few, as he does, right? The guy's incredible. But for the second straight year in this joint practice setting, you saw Martin Emerson against top tier receivers. Last year was AJ Brown and Smith, and Martin Emerson's great. You see what makes him rare. The closing speed, the length, all of that stuff. He's sitting on a $100 million contract that's probably coming a year from now, and we'll see. But, I don't know. I think Denzel Ward is still in for a good year, and obviously we're all concerned about the concussions there. I think it's a good sign, without being a doctor, that he's out on the field, that he's watching. But yeah, the Browns need them all. In that playoff game, Martin Emerson had a really uncharacteristically bad game.
Yeah, he did.
But in 2 years, what have you seen Martin Emerson have bad games, like 2 or 3?
Yeah.
The guy is really good, really good. And watching him against Jefferson was a treat for 2 days.
Yeah, he's tremendous. I don't know how long. I'll be honest, my thing with Greg Newsome, when they announced that injury and kind of digging into it, it feels like he's going to miss more time than maybe they alluded to. I know Stefanski alluded to week 1, but it feels like if you had surgery on your hamstring, you're probably going to miss more time than that. Either way, Miles Harden, Cam Mitchell, filling that duty, I guess. Mitchell first, then Harden. Impressions of how Mitchell looks and Miles.
I'll start with Newsome. The surgery was about 6.5, 7 weeks out from the opener, so there is a chance he's been running on the field. I don't know, and I don't think the team has made a final determination. With the NFI designation, they have the right to hold him back for a month of the season, but I think that he's on track, or I don't think the door's closed at all.
Interesting.
Right? The general rule is you're going to need 10 defensive backs over the course of the year, right? Corners are just the smallest guys on the field, and they're in high-speed collisions on 60% of the plays. So they want all of these guys. They've treated it like a premium position. And, they won't put Greg Newsome out there in week 1 just to put him out there because they feel good about these other guys, but I wouldn't close the door on that. Miles Harden may be the surprise of camp. I talked to some people that really liked him, but when you're looking at a 7th rounder from South Dakota, and in this secondary, he qualifies probably as the surprise. But I think Halacey's been really good. I think Cameron Mitchell missed the first week or so, and he's been really good. It was surprising today, the first dime defense in the Vikings 1-minute drill, Miles Harden was out there in the slot.
Interesting.
So that was it's the first we'd seen that. It's been Cam Mitchell when he's out there, which is understandable. And with Ward down, it's been Halacey playing with the starters, which are valuable reps for him, whether it's going well or not. So, I would just say to Browns fans, they've treated it like a premium position, and they feel really good about the investments they made in Halacey, in Mitchell, and in Harden, and we'll see where it goes. And this is not to take away anything from Miles Harden. We've seen before where a rookie 7th rounder in camp is a little different when he goes out there in the games, because guys, I don't care who it is, if it's Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones, where they throw the rookie, right? Yeah. But he's been a really good rookie, and he and Halacey both over 2 days made play after play. When and Darnold did the same thing. He threw at the young guys, right? He wasn't throwing to Emerson except when it was one-on-ones, and he had to throw to Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
So he threw to those guys, and they made plays.
Casey, we'll get you out of here, Zach. I know you've had a long day, but Casey, go ahead, and then I'll have one more question for you.
Yeah, so on day 1 of the joint practices, Alex Wright was starting opposite of Miles, and then everybody was focused on Miles blowing every play up. But how did Alex Wright look in that starting role?
I thought he looked good. I'm not sure that he finished practice today. I'm not sure what's going on. Casey, to be truthful, I watched the offense more than the defense. But of the 10 times that I really watched a full defensive play, Miles was back there on about 7 of them, and JOK was back there on 2 of them. That left 1 for everybody else for the Vikings to make a play. And the Vikings did make more plays today than they did in the first game. But I would tell you this, the fact that they did not invest in another rusher and have not to this point tells you what they think about Alex Wright. It's just how I look at it, right? You have your clear top older guys in Miles and Za'Darius. You have your designated rusher in Obo. And then behind that, you don't have anybody proven. But they trust in Alex Wright. And speaking of Miles Harden being out there, I think 2 different times today when they shifted and reset at the start of a formation, Alex Wright was in there in the pass rush packages playing inside. So some of that is Za'Darius is back at practice, but not
Yeah.
fully. But some of that is, a lot of it is what I just said, that endorsement of Alex Wright. They think he took a leap, and they always thought that he was a down the road guy. They think he can continue to take a leap.
All right, I lied. I have 2 questions, but I'll make the first one really quick.
I'm here. Go ahead.
Siaka Ika, you know, was on the ground a lot in the preseason game again. You know, have you seen anything that encourages you that could potentially work out?
No, but I really haven't seen much. You know, I tried to make a note to myself in the preseason game, watch these defensive tackles. I haven't gone back and watched it yet. You know, you start watching the ball, you start working on your articles, you start doing other
For
things.
sure.
So I was watching the Packers receivers because they have about 8 who seemed to me that could make the Browns roster.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting one. Like, just in 2 summers, I haven't seen much from Ika or McGuire. So now, as we're getting ready 10 days from making the cuts, are those guys locks? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's hurt or if Michael Hall's not going to be around, then yeah, he's probably making it. But they drafted Briggs in the 7th round. And I'll tell you, they don't think that Briggs is going to make it back to the practice squad if they have to waive him. Like, when they drafted Briggs, 3 teams called them and said, damn you, we were going to take him. Now, that it's a 7th round, right? It's not the 5th round. But like, just with, I don't know how that's going to go, but I would say Ika's probably on the outside looking in, and we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, in Briggs, to your point, you know, looked very quick off the ball in the preseason game for what we saw out there.
He's like maybe the strongest guy out there. So,
yeah.
Brad, I think the other thing is, if Tomlinson's back, right, and he's healthy, it matters less, because when you're talking about body types, right, you have the Shelby Harris, Mo Hurst, Michael Hall body type who's there to do one, and they brought in Quentin Jefferson, and then you have the Dalvin Tomlinson, Briggs, Ika body type to play the different positions inside. So if Dalvin's ready to go and ready to play 40 snaps, then who's number 3 there matters a whole lot less than if Dalvin can't play or can only give you 15, 20 snaps for the first month of the season. And I don't know that answer right now.
Yeah, knee scope, right? So I wonder how they'll ease him back in with that. You got to think
walking around, you know, but I mean, you're talking about a 30-year-old, 330-pound guy. Like, there's no simple knee scope.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then lastly, you know, I'll kind of take us full circle here. We talked about Watson at the beginning, and you talked about the change in the offense. You know, they tried it last year, right? But they couldn't. They had to kind of go back, either A, because Watson didn't look ready, or you know, injuries, and it just was the easiest way to, you know, with the staff that they had, is to go back to what we have. I know that there's going to be base principles based in Stefanski's core stuff, but from what you've seen, you know, when the video's not on, because obviously they're being very covert about what they're showing, is it conceptually different, and do you like what you see?
Well, I think what we've seen is a lot of like different formations, college type bunch formations, guys running to either create misdirection at the snap or before the snap. We've seen the beginning of the RPO stuff, you know, different rollouts and things like that. But both days they broke the huddle against the Vikings, they had Ricci, the backup tight end, playing fullback. And that's probably just for pass protection reasons. So that's right back to what it was. So, you know, and again, this does not mean that they're behind schedule or that they're bailing on anything. But we have the times we've actually seen the offense run 6 plays are few. You know, you're doing your drill work and install, you're going through your practices, like what it looks like, we have an idea. But until we see it in 2 quarters and they see how teams defended and they see what really works for them, you know. So I think they want to throw short passes to David Njoku and to Jerome Ford, and they want Judy to have the timing to when he gets the matchup that he and Watson can lock in and say, we're either going short or we're going long, and we're going right now. But they're going to have to build to that point. They're nowhere near it right now. That doesn't mean that it won't get there. But I think even just observing, we're going to need games to figure out, hey, what were they trying to do here? And did they miscommunicate? Did the defense read it? Did he just not see it? Like, this guy's not a pocket passer. He's not. He's at his best when he gets out. In an environment here where you're not fully tackling to the ground, maybe you're not seeing him at his best. But he's dropping back, and you don't know what the hell he's looking at half the time.
Interesting. Zach, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you're extremely busy and you've been working hard out there. So make sure you read Zac Jackson at The Athletic, covering your Cleveland Browns, and follow him on X at Akron Jackson. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Zach. It was a blessing to have you on and have you kind of give us the straight truth. We needed it.
All right. Thanks, guys.